Simon alongside me as we discuss Jack Catterall's win over Josh Taylor on Saturday night in Leeds. Dan's a West Ham fan. He's got in touch, Simon. Bob Arum did nothing but embarrass himself. Should be ashamed of his behaviour in the ring after the fight. Jack Catterall clearly won the fight. We agree Jack Catterall clearly won the fight, but as you said, it's the degrees of
but what Bob's arguing about is the degrees of loss.
Right.
And I don't think that warrants a mic-grabbing moment in front of an audience, in front of a fighter that's come through a loss which he didn't lose when he could have been the undisputed champion of the world, and he's had to endure that.
Yeah.
He's gone in there, he's proved his point, and rather than say later on, I think the scoring was wide, Bob Arum decided to take, in part, some of his moment away. And the fact that Jack Catterall kind of laughed it off in the ring and Eddie Hearn did the right things by sort of ignoring it doesn't make it right. He's arguing about the degrees of loss. And we see bad score. I mean, I was in Madison Square Garden where we saw American judges scoring the Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis fight in such a way. So shut up, Bob, about British scoring and British boxing border control. And you'll soon be back over if one of your fighters gets paid enough money. Don't worry about that. But
he did call in to account the integrity of the judging system here. Of that, there was no doubt. For those who missed it, listen to Arum again in the ring post-match.
What's important to you now?
Hey,
you want to give? Bob wants to speak.
I saw the fight like everybody else. Those scorecards were a disgrace. Were an absolute disgrace. And I really feel sorry for Josh. I thought he won the fight, but those scorecards were ridiculous. And that's the lesson. I will never, ever allow an American fighter to come here with this British board scoring the fight. Those scores were ridiculous.
Well, Bob Arum jumped in at that stage, Simon, while Eddie Hearn was in the ring in full flow being interviewed himself. This morning I caught up with Eddie in Riyadh, and he reacted to the way that worked out with Arum in the ring, saying what he said.
Bob has no filter. I mean, I think he's 93 years old, so, you know, he's not always going to act accordingly, but he's a passionate guy. You know, firstly, I think the scorecards were a little bit wide. No one really doubted that Jack Catterall won the fight, but it was pretty close. And I didn't even know Bob had got in the ring, to be honest with you. He just come up to me and went, "Give me the microphone." And I just gave it to him, and off he went, and he kind of hung himself in the process. But, you know, I think the amount of lopsided scorecards you've seen in America or on a Bob Arum show, I mean, he's seen hundreds of them over the years. So it was a bit of a strange reaction, you know, to say you're never going to bring a fighter back to Britain again. Again, very, very strong reaction. You know, they were all British judges, 3 English judges, and I guess his gripe was that there wasn't a Scottish judge, and there's not many of them around at that level. But, you know, in the first fight, Jack Catterall clearly won the fight, and it got given to Josh Taylor. This time around, Jack Catterall clearly won the fight. The only talking point was the wideness of the scorecards, and, you know, Mr. Arum wanted to let that known.
Eddie, was Bob Arum right to call into question the integrity, if you like, of British judging?
I don't think so. You know, I think our judges are some of the best in the world. You know, it's one of those fights that some people actually had it quite wide to Catterall. I had it by like 2 points. But, you know, I think when you've got 2 British fighters and you've got the British Boxing Board of Control, I mean, it's quite a damning reaction to their ability and their integrity as well. So I'm sure Robert Smith, our old pal, wasn't mad about it at all. And, you know, I think even the top-ranked guys were a little bit embarrassed by it. But as I said, Bob is 93. You can't expect him to be compos mentis all the time. But, you know, I think the reaction wasn't the greatest look in the world.
I know you're in Riyadh. Maybe when you come back, is it something you might want to address with people in the industry in general terms, Eddie? How boxing is scored, how judges go about their business?
Not really. The problem is boxing scoring is purely opinion, you know, and no one's wrong because it's their individual opinion. I don't like it when you see a scorecard that goes both ways. So you might see, you know, 116, 112 for Catterall, 116, 112 for Taylor. That doesn't really make sense. However, judges do like certain things in different fights. Some judges like you to be aggressive. Some like the purer boxer and the mover. So, you know, I think we just need to keep making sure that all these performances are monitored. I don't think there was anything untoward with the scorecards. Probably 1 or 2 points too favourable, in my opinion, but not in other people's opinion. And, you know, Bob's been around a long time, so to throw your toys out the pram for the guy who actually deserved to win the fight getting the decision, in my opinion, was just an overreaction. But as I said, he's been around a long time. He's seen a lot of lopsided decisions, and the most important thing was that the right man won.
And Catterall won it. So, Simon, the scoring, that was Eddie and Riyadh.
It's a good analysis by Eddie. It's a fair analysis, diplomatic,
right,
but quite condemnatory as well. I think that's absolutely spot on.
So the scorecards read 117, 111, 117, 111, 116, 113.
Yeah.
Arum did his nut in the ring at the end. Here's the thing, though. I'm not pro-Taylor, but I am Scottish. Each of the three judges, English.
Sure. Okay. So what? So we're trying to suggest that a fight that most people universally think that Josh Taylor lost.
No, hang on. But when Germany play Scotland in the Euros in the opening game, the referee won't be German, will he?
I guess not. I guess that's an argument that can be had. I mean, I didn't hear them objecting to it before the fight. I didn't hear Josh Taylor talking about the judges and suggesting that they're all English. If he did, then he may have a point. But we're arguing about, we're being pedantic. He lost the fight. 107. I don't think he lost. I don't think it was 9 rounds to 3.
Do you think there should be 3 English judges in a fight like that, though?
I think
when it's a Scotland,
for the purpose of this
affair?
argument, for the purpose of how the optics, the much overused expression gets trotted out, then maybe there's an argument that suggests that you should have a neutral judge in there. And I'm sure that was the gift of the fighters and their camps to make an opinion and express a view on it. If they can choose a ring, they can have some, I suspect, some input in some sort of impartiality. But he lost the fight. He got away with one in the Hydra, and the subjectivity of whether you can or can't score it in a certain way. There does have to be some sort of formula about what you're looking for, because ultimately you've got to get some sort of standardisation. The difficulty is that they've got so many different belts with so many different outlooks and dispositions that you get into that territory. But no one's arguing about the outcome. I don't care if Bob Arum's 93 years of age. I mean, I would have thought with age comes wisdom, right? And that was unpleasant and unnecessary and disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I think Eddie's very diplomatic. The key for Jack now is that Jack goes on, and who can make him the fights? Where can he go? Can he fight Devin Haney? Because Devin Haney should actually not be world champion, but the fact that Ryan Garcia, A, failed a drug test, but B, didn't make the weight, meant that there was no belt on the line. Teofimo Lopez is an opportunity for him. The one that he's the highest ranked for is Mateus, and he doesn't want any of him at the moment. This is the boy Mateus is a top quality fighter for the IBF, but he should be getting a world title shot now, Jack. The highest rankings he's got is in the IBF, is against the boy Mateus, and I don't know whether that's the right fight for him. I would like to see him in with someone like Teofimo Lopez, and go and get the WBO, I think it is.
Yeah.
But he's a world level fighter. He's an elite fighter, Jack Catterall. He deserves all the credit, and all this judging furore is nothing to do with him. It's nothing to do with the outcome. The only judging furore that Jack Catterall should think about is the daylight robbery he had to endure
first
2
time
years
around.
ago.
Yeah. Thomas from York, as a former boxer myself, I think there should be a minimum of 5 judges, one on each side of the ring, and the referee. High profile fights, it could have 2 more judges working on television without commentary. I mean, and Thomas is a fighter, former boxer.
I mean, if we are really in the territory, we always focus on the bad outcomes, never the amount of times they get it right.
Yeah.
And they get it right more often than they get it wrong. We have controversial decisions. They are few and far between, but they're not. They are there enough for people to be, disconcerted by them.
Yeah.
But this wasn't a
controversial.
controversial. Well, look, I mean, Josh wanted a trilogy, and he wants a trilogy because he's lost now to Jack Catterall, and he says it's 1-1. I think most people think it's 2-0, but in the record books it's 1-1. I was surprised at Josh. He certainly didn't have a problem making the weight. Certainly didn't have a problem with the amount of I mean, to me, without wanting to be cruel to Josh, it looked like it was all brawn and no brains, whereas Jack Catterall had all the brains, the sophistication. He was the kryptonite. And to what Josh Taylor, and this didn't look like the Josh Taylor that I saw beat Ramirez and Regis Progress a few years ago.
Yes,
that was at the top of his game.
Yeah.
Now, whether that means he goes up to 147 and fights in that weight class, would look at the beasts that are waiting in there. I mean, you've got Crawford sitting in that division and people of that ilk. So he looks like he still wants to fight. I'm a huge Josh Taylor fan. I was just surprised that the difference between Catterall and Josh Taylor was evident. Josh was game and brought the fight and made the pace and came forward the whole 12 rounds, but Jack was the quality in the ring.
Yeah.
In all fairness to Josh, and I know he probably won't like to hear that. I don't know if he's still got the flame burning, then Josh is still a top fighter, and maybe 147. Spencer sat in this room and has repeatedly, endlessly said Josh Taylor cannot win in this weight class anymore. He's tight at the weight. It wasn't about tightness in the weight, was it? It was about sophistication. It was about what Jack Catterall brought.
Yeah. Well, we'll go after them this week, them being the likes of Josh Taylor and Bob Arum. See what they've got to say for themselves, maybe midweek or later on in the week. That is for sure.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.